Hey guys, I'm EJ here, and this is Kendall, and today we're continuing our Mount Rushmore series by discussing the top superhero animated movies. Kendall and I are big fans when it comes to the superhero animated movies. There are a lot of them. DC, Marvel, I think, have put out some really excellent content when it comes to the stuff that's come out from straight to DVD, straight to VHS. And we want to talk about what we think are the greatest superhero animated movies of all time in that regard. So let's get down to it. Let's get to our Mount Rushmore, and of course, Mount Rushmore rules. Obviously, of course, we're talking about the greatest superhero films of all time, but we're also talking about impact as well, and longevity and staying power with that movie. So it's not just the best, but it's our personal favorites involved with also their impact on the culture. So with that being said, Kendall, what is your Mount Rushmore?
My Mount Rushmore, EJ. It includes 4 movies, 2 Marvel, one Marvel, 3 DC.
Okay.
First being Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. Second being Batman Under the Red Hood.
Okay.
Third, we have Justice League Doom, and fourth, we have Hulk versus Wolverine.
Wow. So what made you get into some of those choices there?
Well, when you look at Batman Beyond Under the Red Hood, Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, that's a movie that is connected obviously to the Batman Beyond series, television series, but the way they utilize the character of the Joker that wasn't used in the series and isn't really connected, never had much of a connection to Batman Beyond in particular.
Yeah.
But still, to weave him into that futuristic storyline so perfectly, and to tell a story that's almost similar to Under the Red Hood, which we'll talk about later. But just an incredible story. If you're a fan of the Bruce Timm DC universe, that movie and the Batman the animated series, that movie sort of brings everything full circle. So I think it's just an incredible movie, and I feel like it deserves a spot on the Mount Rushmore. When I look at Batman Under the Red Hood, that's another movie, just an incredible story. It tells obviously the story of Jason Todd becoming the Red Hood, and the death of Jason Todd is included in that movie. There's just plenty of different things in that movie that the way they told that story. Obviously it's a very popular Batman comic that they told, and sort of like the anti-Killing Joke, because we all know how the Killing Joke.
The animated movie. Is
that's like the opposite worst case scenario of what we had with Under the Red Hood.
Yeah.
But the third movie I had was Justice League Doom, and that's a movie that is very, very impressive to me because it's not it wasn't grandiose like some other Justice League movies that we've had that I'm sure you'll have on your list, but I think Justice League Doom as a contained story was incredibly unique. It was incredibly fascinating the way they used Batman as both protagonist, but also almost as an antagonist, and just utilized plenty of different characters and villains that we don't see all the time in some of these other movies. So I thought that Justice League Doom, the movie that doesn't get a whole lot of credit, deserves a spot on the list. And I think my last Mount Rushmore movie, I had to give a shout out to Marvel because Marvel is the other player in this game, and I think Hulk versus Wolverine in particular also had a Hulk versus Thor movie. Hulk versus Wolverine played a big role in some of the movies that we have now. Obviously, the story's great. Seeing Wolverine and Hulk go at it for like 90 minutes in animated form was incredible. Even though it's PG-13, I never felt like they were pulling any punches with some of the animation that was in the movie. It's something that I would like to see now that Fox has bought, or if now that Disney's bought Fox, so hopefully they consider doing that, some sort of Hulk versus Wolverine movie on the big screen.
We can only wish for something like that.
That could be incredible. At least some sort of crossover event with those two characters. But and ultimately, I think the thing that put this on this list was the fact that Deadpool was included in the movie, and we used so perfectly. It was sort of one of my first introductions to the character on a medium outside of comics. He's he's been used in video games in the past, but this was one of his first, animation appearances, if not his first, if not the first appearance for him in animation. And they used him perfectly, and might still be the best version of Deadpool I've seen outside of the movie Ryan Reynolds version. It's just an incredible movie.
Yeah. So let's get to the movies for me that we agree on for Mount Rushmore. So I actually also have Wolverine versus Hulk, and I actually have Batman Under the Red Hood as well in my Mount Rushmore. I'll get to those two movies in a moment, but let's get to the newer movies that I have also on my Mount Rushmore. So I have, of course, Batman Under the Red Hood, Wolverine versus Hulk. I have Justice League, Flashpoint, PARODOX on my list as well. And then my last one is going to have to be Batman Master of the Phantasm. So let's get to Justice League PARODOX, Flashpoint PARODOX, which I can't believe is not on your list for me. I think this is the greatest animated movie that we've seen, I think, of any superhero movie. I even would include The Incredibles and Big Hero 6 and anything that we've seen. The level of violence in the movie, the dark storytelling, the action, the edge of your seat kind of drama that is involved, the emotional storytelling of Flash losing his parents, doing this selfish deed really to kind of bring them back and create this, post-apocalyptic world, and him kind of being the villain of his own movie is just incredible. And of course, they took from what was a great comic book series that they did with Jeff Johns in the DC Comics. But I mean, that movie I thought was brilliant, and they had so many nice touches on being true to the comic, but then changing up some things as well. And I think for a lot of people, the first introduction to Thomas Wayne as Batman, this gun-toting, alcoholic, brutal type of character. No one had seen that kind of Batman before. I think it shocked a lot of people, and I think it also really kind of brought a lot of people's attention to Reverse Flash, who I think if you're not really reading the Flash comics as much, or if you didn't watch the Flash show, this was before the Flash show came out, I believe. This might have been your first iteration of how dangerous and how deadly someone like that was or is. So Eobard Thawne was great in the movie. Thomas Wayne was great in the movie. That had to make my list. That's a classic. And then I had Batman Master of the Phantasm because it's simple. I think that this movie kind of set the tone and kind of brought us what we now have with all these other movies. Not only is it brilliant because it's Bruce Timm, Batman the Animated Series, in storytelling. The idea of Batman going through this part of his life, you're thinking him trying to get away from the mask, and kind of the path that he takes ends up taking him back into being Batman, and putting him deeper in the hole, and realizing that kind of life is not something he could have. It's a really great story, and again, in terms of a cultural impact, that kind of showed what DC could do if they gave themselves 80 to 90 minutes to tell a story on a movie, and I think that laid the foundation for a lot of these movies we have. And of course, Wolverine versus the Hulk. Wolverine and Hulk are incredible in that movie, but Deadpool steals the show. I would argue that I don't know if we have Deadpool on the big screen if we don't have the kind of rousing response they got from that Deadpool animation character for a lot of people, that first introduction to him. So I was fine with that one being on there. And then Batman Under Red Hood again. Talk about edge of your seat drama. It's a contained story, but it's a story that felt so raw and felt so real. And for me, it's one of my personal favorites. So I had Under Red Hood on there. It's tough between Return of Joker and Under Red Hood. To me, it's a little bit redundant to have them both on the same list because I think that their stories are pretty similar. A lot of it is kind of both stories are very similar. I mean, obviously, the Return of the Joker definitely took a little bit from Under the Red Hood, or at least the Death in the Family storyline in doing that movie. So I wasn't sure about having both of those movies in there, so I had to have one out. So I put Under the Red Hood on.
Yeah. When I look at Flashpoint, in terms of its impact, I would have had it on there had it not been had the DCEU not failed as much as it has. I won't say failed, underwhelmed as much as it has, and as the Flash season 3 Flashpoint storyline underwhelmed as much as it did. So,
but to me that makes it greater because we saw them fail trying to accomplish what they accomplished on Flashpoint.
Like, if those were just like how Deadpool was great,
Right.
that's what helped. If Deadpool was a flop, then I don't know if Hulk
I hear
versus
you.
Wolverine makes my list. So, Flashpoint will ultimately, if maybe the Flashpoint movie is great, it might make my list in the future.
All right. But I think that's our video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. What movies do you think should be on the Mount Rushmore of superhero animated movies? Do you agree with our list? Do you have new movies that should be on there? Make sure you leave a comment and like this video. Subscribe to our channel, of course. For Kendall, I'm EJ. Peace.